Alright, after cutting everything out and marking your patterns, make sure you cut with a 1/2 inch seam allowance as well. It's not included in the pattern. The first step is to create the pocket openings in the back of the diaper. So simply fold over between the 2 lines that you've marked onto your pattern, and then zigzag between those 2 lines so that your flannel does not fray. I've already got a reinforcement set up on my machine. Reinforce it. I've made sure to fold towards the wrong side of the fabric as well. You can feel it on flannel. You can probably even see it too. It's got a soft nap on one side and kind of a, almost like a twill, I guess, on the other side. You want to make sure you fold in towards that side that's not as soft. All right, we'll do the other side. Okay, the next step is to straight stitch the 2 pieces together. We've got the right sides facing each other, and you trace the pattern on before you cut out with the 1/2 inch seam allowance. So you just follow along the pattern so you get the right curvature along the arms of the pattern. And I'm starting at the end of where we just zigzagged the pocket. After that, you're supposed to do the elastic. There's 2 options with the Rita's Rump pattern. You can either sew it into the seam allowance, or you can create a ruffle. I've decided to sew it into the seam allowance. That's the way I've seen it most times, and I think that's what makes the most sense. So I have a 3/8 inch poly braid elastic. And you reinforce with a regular zigzag to start. If your machine has a needle down feature, I would recommend turning that on. And if it has an automatic foot lift, turn that off so that your foot stays down as you're moving along your elastic. Keeps the tension on it and makes it a lot easier to work with. So we're zigzagging. And when you get to your mark on your pattern, stop and switch to a 3-step zigzag. I have a personal stitch set up on my machine where it's widened out. The wider you make your, or longer, excuse me, the longer you make your stitch on the 3-step zigzag, the tighter your elastic's gonna be. So you pull on the elastic as tight as it can go, and then I always let up a little bit. So I think that makes your elastic last a little bit longer since it's not in that full tension all the time. Okay, and then you put some tension on your fabric as well. It's going to reinforce automatically on my machine. I always like to make sure it's kind of in the middle of the elastic as we're going here. Again, pull tight, let up a little bit. And then just kind of work your way along. You don't feel like you need to, do the whole strip of elastic all at one time. And pull tight, let up a little bit. Release and switch to a straight zigzag stitch. Stitch along for a while and reinforce it. Trim off the extra elastic and you're good to go. Okay, the next step in the pattern is to turn your diaper right side out, which I've already done. And what helps with that is in the corners is using a chopstick. Some people would iron it to pull all the edges out and make it a nice flat surface. Kind of lazy, so I didn't do that. I don't think a lot of people would do that with a flannel diaper. As you'll see when I go along, I kind of work it out so that the edges are all even, so you're catching most of your, your color in. It says to go about 1/4 of an inch in from the outside edge, and you start at the edge of the right side of the pocket and go all the way around to the left side. Make sure you reinforce at the beginning. Great about my machine as well is I've got a little line here on my foot that kind of shows me where the 1/4 inch is. I'm coming up to my elastic, so I'm going to come in a little bit further when I reach that point so I don't catch it and lose my elasticity. And you want to pull that casing straight as well. Make sure your edges are even. Just take it slow. You don't have to be fast with this. You get faster as you learn how to do it. Now I'm doing a pretty generous casing. I want to make sure I don't catch my elastic at all. Daughter's telling me to be careful as well. Okay, we're almost to the edge of the casing here. So we come back in. Back to our 1/4 of an inch. Kind of getting ready here at the end to finish her off. Okay, reinforcing. And we are all set.